And you as a mediator have that unique experience of seeing sometimes there's a trade, sometimes there's a trade of retirement, sometimes there's a trade of time sharing, sometimes there's a child support tipping, sometimes there's an agreement on a calculation that you wouldn't otherwise use, and that's why you did this one thing. It's all interrelated and interconnected, and if we don't pay attention to the totality of those inner workings, every family has their own DNA.
Well, and as an attorney, and for me as a mediator, it's every single mediation is identical in the fact that we go through the PEACE acronym. We start with parenting, equitable distribution, child support, alimony, parenting, equitable distribution, alimony, child support, everything else, right?
Right.
But then, yes, there are nuances where we may not go to equitable distribution. We may need to then go to alimony before we figure that out. Or we may not be able to finish the parenting because it depends on who's getting the home in equitable distribution. So yes,
Right.
we have a format, but every family is unique. It's like, every day, do I mediate? Yes, but every single one has their nuances, which,
Right.
which is fun because you know what? It never gets old. It's not like
Right.
going into the office every day doing the same old thing. No, I am mediating, but it's different because of
Right.
those nuances.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
so let me just read to you just a couple of the emails, because I'm on a 300+ person email chain from the people that were for alimony reform. What was interesting was this. So let me just read to you first, which was interesting. So this was a quote from the alimony reform group treasurer, Michael Bueller. Okay, he's a Coral Gables businessman. This is online. This is on floridaphoenix.com. That anyone can just Google this and find it. But he actually said the concept of retroactivity, because that was the big thing. That was the reason why Governor DeSantis vetoed, was because of this retroactivity. We're going to talk about this in a second. But what's interesting is, first off, what he says, and then the responses from the people in the group, and I'm going, well, that doesn't make much sense. But he says, quote, "The concept of retroactivity is a red herring put forth by the family law section." That's you, the family law section, and First Wives and Husbands. This is a club, I guess. And so, it's a red herring. So, it's, the retroactivity is disputed. Well, so, okay, well, if it's disputed, then, and if that's what the governor vetoed, the reason why, well, then it wouldn't have, if it's not retroactive, well, then all the people in this group shouldn't be upset because it wouldn't affect them, right? Like, why are they upset if it wouldn't affect them? Well, wait a second. If he's saying it's a red herring, but then all of his group is upset, well, then maybe it's not a red herring. So this is some of the emails that these people have said. So one person said, actually wrote to the governor, Governor Ron, "I'm shocked and overwhelmed that you would overrule House and Senate supermajorities on such an important bill. I was afraid that you would follow Rick Scott's selfish precedent for his own daughter. You are not the man and leader I thought you were." Someone else wrote, "Hello, everyone. Like many of you, I'm extremely disappointed and would have expected a different result from DeSantis. He is part of a political corrupt machine we have today that is destroying this country." Another person wrote, I suggest you do not need to defeat DeSantis. That is rather missing the point. You need to defeat the family law section of the Florida bar, or the people behind the Florida law section. FLS did not win by logic or being right or just. They did not even try. DeSantis is a lawyer. DeSantis was amply informed by the alimony reform movement. DeSantis knows there's no legal argument. That is why his short veto statement was counterfactual and made no sense. It is when someone makes no sense, you have to listen most carefully because they are telling you something very important. Pay attention, warning, it may be a painful message. I suggest FLS won by raw political power held over a politician. How did the FLS pull this off? What power does FLS wield, and how do they wield it? How can citizens thwart, change, avert, seduce, persuade, win over, circumvent, overcome this power? That is the question. And one other person equated this to Lincoln and the Emancipation Proclamation, and said, using the governor's reasoning, Lincoln could not have freed the existing slaves, only abolished it going forward. Candidly, I'm done fighting and will try to negotiate a settlement with my ex. Now, I, as a mediator, and just as a person, have often thought of alimony reform going, oh yeah, it's sort of like the Emancipation Proclamation. Well, sorry, slaves, you that are already slaves, you're still slaves, but anyone from here forward where you're free. In theory, that makes sense, except that slavery wasn't a law, and then a law came and then made a law illegal. Like, laws are laws.
Oh, well, let's not forget that slavery was also involuntary.
Correct.
And an agreement is a voluntary contractual relationship. So it's just not really analogous at all.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So based on all of that, Andrea, what's going on?
Well, you know,
and you know what? Start with, because originally you were up in Tallahassee speaking and dealing with this, correct?
Yeah.
So talk about your involvement there and whatnot.
So my involvement is essentially just as a practitioner who's really interested in making sure that the law that I'm practicing is good law, that I'm able, let's, for example, like I keep this at my desk, right? This is the statute book. This is my red book. It's got everything I need in it. It's the, chapter 61, chapter 39, all of those things. I have an innate interest as a practitioner to make sure that those statutes are well written and that they can be understood by everyone. Because when they're poorly written, when they're not understood by everyone, it costs people a lot of money.
Sort of like a mediation agreement. I say that all the time. I want it clear because I want the people to understand it. They can obey it. I want a judge to be able to understand it because he or she can enforce it.
Yeah, and clarity is everything, right? The clarity gives us some predictability. Clarity gives me as an attorney the ability to look at my client and talk about likely outcomes because I know what this statute means. So that really leads all my involvement with legislation in Florida, with family law legislation. And when this particular bill, so this bill that has circulated is, it's been here for a while. It's been back and forth for a while. This version this year was less than perfect. It was confusing. It was contradictory in and of itself. It had some great stuff in it though. Okay, it did. So if you think about the bill, you think about it in 6 different parts. That's how I've done it for myself. And it's funny, I was telling you earlier, I have this notebook and this notebook has the bill and the bill is divided. And I've got the bill divided into the 6 parts. So, part 1 of the bill was the chapter 6108 revisions, right? And that was, it starts with 61046. And that was, hey, we're going to redefine income. Okay. So right now, when you talk about income for the purposes of alimony, you're talking about all sources available to someone as income.
Which is what chapter 61 talks about. It says all sources of available income.
All sources of available income. Yes. So section 1 of Senate Bill 1796 creates a definition of income called active gross income. And in summary, that means that that's all of the income that you earn from actually working, okay? And then in this definition, it says that for the purposes of determining what business income is, then you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna look at the IRS's publication 925, okay? So hello, forensic accountants, come on in and tell us what that means. So now we're inviting more forensic accountants into the case, okay? So what we're talking about here is we're going to take your active gross income, which is your salary, your wages, your bonuses, your commissions, your allowances, your overtime, your contracts, all of those things. And that's all we're going to consider as your income.
For more information about my services or to schedule your mediation with me, either in person or using my iChat mediation virtual platform built by Cisco Communications, visit me online at imediateinc.com. Call me at 561-262-9121, toll free at 877-822-1479, or email me at mbrickman@ichatmediation.com.